Okay, we're going to do an OpenCATS installation video walkthrough for Ubuntu 16.04. Not the same as 14.04. There's different software as default. I have a VirtualBox set up with a brand new Ubuntu 16.04 installation, except I'm running Ubuntu. Everything will be the same, except it's a little bit of a lighter environment for the technical people. You know what I'm talking about. For non-technical, I can assure you, even though it looks different, same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the OpenCATS documentation. This is a brand new system. There's nothing installed. So we are starting from scratch. Now, if you Google OpenCATS documentation, our documentation comes up at the top result. There are other older copies floating around. We want specifically opencats-documentation.readthedocs.io, and there should be some updated Ubuntu 16.04. Very complete, very correct walkthrough. So hopefully this will work with no issues. If there are, I'll make notes and make adjustments. So we'll go ahead and get started. First thing we're always going to do is update our system. Then we are going to install MariaDB, which is the same thing as MySQL, just with a different name. I believe it's a fork. I'm going to see if I can make the font any bigger without... Oof, that is huge. Good. Let me just readjust things a little bit so we can see everything we need to see. May need to readjust a lot. There we go. Okay, nice big readable fonts. MariaDB is installed. Now we're going to secure the installation. I had a little bit of a hiccup running through this earlier, so let's see how this works. Now, for some reason, and if somebody technical can answer this, I'd love to know. When I did this in Ubuntu 14.04, I didn't have to do sudo for the MySQL stuff, but I do in Ubuntu 16. The documentation for each version is what works for that version. Okay, sudo mysql underscore secure underscore installation, enter current password for root, enter for none. I have not entered a MySQL password, so none should work. Good. Set root password. Yes. New password. MariaDB password. Outstanding. Remove anonymous users. Yes. Disallow root login remotely. Yes. Remove test database and access to it. Yes. Reload privilege tables now. Yes. Alright, so please note, at this point, we have a root MariaDB /MySQL password that's established. I am using MariaDB password. You probably don't want to do that. You probably want something else, but you need to write it down because there's a few different passwords we're going to be using through this process. So far so good. We have done all of this. We move on to Apache 2. Should be relatively smooth sailing. Okay. Now if we go back over here and open a new tab and go just to localhost in the browser, we should see our Apache page. Apache Ubuntu default page, blah, blah, blah. So far, so good. Check for success. See this. We move on. Now, I've got this note here. This is a little bit tricky. For non-technical people, sorry. The default PHP version in Ubuntu 16.04 is PHP 7. OpenCATS does not currently work with PHP 7. They are working on it. I don't know at what point that will be fixed, but at some point it will be. For now, we have to stay away from the default PHP, which is PHP 7, and we have to add a repository for PHP 5.6, which does work with OpenCATS. So as long as you stick to the documentation, you will have zero problems. If you already have PHP installed and it's PHP 7, you're going to have to downgrade to PHP 5.6, which if you Google around, it's not that hard. But I have found challenges in the past trying to run applications both that require PHP 7 and then another application that requires PHP 5 side by side. So we're going to put in PHP 5.6. We're going to add a repository. If you're not comfortable with that, I have no answer for you. I'm going to update the software. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and install PHP 5.6 with the necessary extensions. They're all listed. So again, all we have to do is copy and paste. If you are manually typing, always note, though it looks like it's irrelevant right now. So just pay attention to the details when you're typing this stuff. It's easy to make small mistakes. Extensions are installing. And they're done. Now we're going to restart Apache. And we're going to create an info.php file to make sure everything looks good. I'm using Nano. If you use V, go use V. These instructions are for Nano. Control O, enter Control X. I honestly don't know if I need to restart Apache, but I'm doing it. Now I'm going back into the browser. I'm going to localhost /info.php. Look at that. PHP 5.6. Check for extensions. Curls one I installed. GD. LDAP. MySQL. Yeah, the other ones are there too. There's SOAP, zip, blah, blah, blah. Alright, so we're good. We move forward. And need to set up our MySQL MariaDB database. Okay, the root password, MariaDB password. Alright, now we're in. Now this is the database this is really CATS, OpenCATS. OpenCATS, the software, the front end that you see and you interact with, and it looks pretty, that's great, but the database behind it is really where all the work is done and all the information is stored. So we're going to create a user, we're going to create a database, we're going to give that user privileges on that database to add, remove, make changes, etc. Make sure, two things to note, I think this is in the documentation. First of all, when you're using the apostrophes, make sure they're there correctly, don't forget them. That'll be a little screw up that's easy to overlook. Also, make sure you put your semicolons at the end of every statement, including the last statement. Everything in SQL, or MySQL, you need the semicolons. So we're creating user OpenCATS at localhost. Identified by database password, semicolon. Then we're going to create the database. OpenCATS, semicolon, privileges. Okay, last one, exit, semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon. And we should be done with that. Okay, database is set up. Now we are going to download the OpenCATS files. First, we're going to change directory into the web directory. This is where all the stuff that is web hosted on our server and available is. This is our info PHP file. This is the Apache index file. Excuse me. So we're in the directory, and then we will sudo wget the OpenCATS files. And we can see they're in the directory now. So we'll go ahead and extract them. Sudo tar-xvzf and the file name. And we should see. OpenCAPS subfolder. Now we're going to change directory into that subfolder. And here's OpenCATS. Now, note on the documentation, you can name this subfolder anything you want. And this will be what you have to enter into the browser to access your OpenCATS. So personally, I don't like calling it that. I call my folder ATS. You can change it. My point is, during this process, if you name this folder something other than cats, or I'm sorry, other than OpenCATS, the way it is here, you're going to have to make sure that you consistently put it the same way that you have the folder named, including what letters are capitalized or not capitalized at all. It's all a factor when you're doing this, and if you mess up anything, something won't work right. So we have our OpenCATS files. Now we are going to, and we're in the OpenCATS directory, so we're going to take a second and install Composer. Okay, Composer's in. Now we're going to run Composer to install some dependencies. And it looks like something didn't work right. MB string. I thought that was on there. So I'm going to install this additional dependency. Hopefully I will have fixed that in the documentation. So you should not bump into this. Yeah, I don't have MB string on there. So we need sudo apt get install php 5.6 -mb string. Good. Now we'll run Composer again. Sudo composer install. This is what it should look like when Composer is working correctly. I realized that I think I do have MB string on there. Yeah, problem is it's just cut off there, it didn't roll over, so we also have to install php 5.6 -zip. So let me go ahead and install that. Again, this will have all been done, updated in the documentation. You should have already installed this by now, so you should not have either of these issues as you are going through this. So we're back down here. We did Composer. Now we're going to do the server and directory permissions. We have to back up a directory, so that's cd space .. Now we're back in the main web directory. and we're just going to run a couple permissions commands. Again, make sure that the file name is correct or you will have problems. Okay, permissions are done. Now we need to set up the resume indexing tools. We need to install them, rather. And that's it for the stuff in the terminal. The rest is going to be in the browser. So we're going to go to the browser, and we're going to go to localhost, OpenCATS, whatever that directory is named. I'm going to open a new tab, paste. Good. This is the screen you should see. OpenCATS installation wizard. Right here, this link. Click it. Now, PHP zip is not loaded. I did install that. I think I have to restart the Apache server. Okay, so if we refresh this, all green. Yay, green is good. Now, yellow, like we had before. Can't bring that back up. Yellow means you can proceed, but I think most of the time it's because you're missing a PHP extension. You can use cats without some of the extensions. You will lose some functionality. It depends on what it is. If you have red, a lot of times your permissions are not right. Sometimes there's another problem, but you cannot proceed if you have red. If you have red, you have to solve that problem before you can go forward. We're all green, clicking next. This is the MySQL or MariaDB database information that we set up. So we're going to enter it in here so it will connect with the database. The username, the database name was OpenCATS. Password was database password. Localhost is going to be the host. I think even if you're on a VPS, it should be localhost. There are some instances where you'll put an IP address in here, but most of the time it's going to be localhost. Test database connectivity, red. I think I said this in the documentation. Usually I get red for about 5 seconds, and then it'll go green, so I'll do another click, green. So if you get red right off the bat, try it a couple more times. If you click it 3 or 4 or 5 times and it stays red, then either this information is incorrect or there's a problem with this communicating with your MySQL MariaDB database. So something was either entered incorrectly or set up wrong. But green is good. Next. We're going to go with a new installation. And these are the resume indexing tools. We have to change this path. This is incorrect. Needs to be /usr bin. I'm sorry, /usr/bin/ anti-word. I'm going to copy this over here so that we have the correct path on all of them. Now before we click test, it's going to do the red thing again. Red, red, green. Give it a couple tries. If it stays red, one of these is maybe incorrect. Maybe you forgot to install the resume indexing tools. Should be green. though we don't have to do this part at all. You don't have to have the resume indexing tools to use CATS. It's a nice feature. Next. I'm not going to do the email right now, so we're just going to go ahead and disable that and click Next. Set your time zone. I have set the time zone wrong on mine before. It can cause problems. You will see notes entered in the middle of the night. It's weird. It'll cause some issues. So make sure you have the time zone correct. Also, date format, US format, UK format, whatever you prefer. I am not installing the zip code lookup for the United States. You're welcome to if you want. Just click there. I'm not. That's it. That's pretty much it. Alright, it's done. Gives us our default username and password right here. Thank you, CATS, OpenCATS developers. Admin, admin. Start OpenCATS. Admin, admin. First thing we'll do though, change the password. So I'm going to settings, not administration, but I'm going to my profile because I am the administrator. So my profile, change password, current password, admin, new password, whatever you want it to be. I'm putting new password. Change passwords, it'll kick you out. Log in again, admin, new password. Log in. Have a awesome, shiny, new applicant tracking system just waiting for your data. So thanks a lot. Let me know what your thoughts are or if there's any issues. Bye-bye.